Hi, coaches. My name is Carlo Sison, and this is my presentation about the psychology of injury. Before beginning, I would like to give credit to my main source of information, the textbook titled Foundation of Sport and Exercise Psychology by Robert S. Weinberg. Okay, let's begin. Firstly, I think it's important to define what exactly is an injury. An injury can be defined as trauma to the body that is physically impairing. Now, note, it can be temporary or permanent. And oftentimes, there are three components of injuries that I'd like to highlight. Firstly, it's going to need mental attention during participation. For example, if a basketball player injures their knee, they're going to be aware of that knee injury during play because it's causing them pain. Next, it's going to change how an athlete performs. Once again, using the knee injury example, if a basketball player injures their knee, right, obviously they're not going to be able to run as fast or jump as high. Lastly, that injured person must now decide for themselves if it's worth continuing. If that knee injured basketball player is thinking to themselves, okay, I can't run as fast or jump as high, that means I can't perform as well. Is it really worth risking further injury to perform at such a low level? Next, I'd like to talk about the causes and mechanisms of injuries. Firstly, there's the most easily understood causes, physical causes, right? Fatigue, collisions, overtraining, etc. Eventually, your body just can't handle what you're giving it and it gives out, gets injured. Next, there's social causes such as peer pressure. In America, there's definitely a culture that glorifies pushing through pain and injuries, which leads to athletes wanting to do so they can impress their other athletes, which is going to ultimately lead to them getting injured. Next, there are psychological factors such as outside situations like the death of a family member or financial issues that's going to cause muscle tension and distraction, which both lead to injuries. Next, there are personality factors, which are more complex since there's lots of inconsistency within sports research. However, I do want to note that personality factors definitely influence the stress injury relationship and affects how an athlete is going to respond to their injuries. Lastly, I want to talk about how high stress levels can be a cause for injuries. 85% of studies suggest there is a relationship between stress levels and injuries. Now, since there's such a high amount of studies that talk about stress levels, I want to further emphasize that and how it connects. So, if an athlete is stressed, right, and they're thinking about that outside situation, they're going to be distracted. And that's attention disruption, which is going to lead to that athlete focusing on that, whatever's stressing them instead of what they're doing. This is going to change how an athlete usually performs, leading to them moving a different way, performing a different way that their body may not be ready for, and they're going to get injured. Next, there's the physical aspect of stress, which leads to increased muscle tension, which interferes with coordination and can lead to injury. Now, I want to talk about other psychological factors, kind of how I referenced before with the peer pressure thing. There's the whole aspect of acting tough and giving 110% being glorified, which encourages athletes to push through pain, leading to potential injuries. Next, there's the culture in sports that if you're injured, you're worthless, which oftentimes leads to coaches prioritizing winning instead of their own athletes' well being. This is especially noticed during the postseason part of sports in which athletes are often rushed back from injuries because coaches want to win now, right? They can't wait for next year. Lastly, kind of tying all of that together is the whole sport ethic as a whole, in which bravado is glorified, leading to athletes wanting to push through pain, right? I want to emphasize that not just coaches forcing them, but oftentimes these athletes want to push through that pain. Now, after talking about the causes, I'd like to talk about the psychological reactions to injuries. As a summary, the emotional responses are as follows. Firstly, there's the injury related information processing stage in which an athlete realizes, okay, I'm injured. What is my injury? How did I get injured? Next stage is the emotional upheaval and reactive behavior stage in which an athlete responds to that injury emotionally, oftentimes negative because nobody's going to be happy about being injured. Next is the positive outlook and coping stage in which an athlete is starting to say, okay, I'm injured, but give me time, give me rehab, I can come back. Other reactions include identity loss, feelings of fear and anxiety, a lack of confidence, as sports often give these athletes confidence, performance decreases, and an effect on the group as a whole. For example, if LeBron gets injured, that Lakers locker room is going to be extremely discouraged because it's LeBron, right? You need him. Signs of poor adjustment to injury include feelings of anger and confusion, obsession with return, denial, repeatedly coming back too soon, exaggerated bragging, dwelling on minor physical issues, feelings of guilt, withdrawal from significant others, rapid mood swings, and a lack of belief in recovery. Now, whole point of this presentation, why is sports psychology important in rehab? Studies have shown that positive psychological states can speed up healing. Levleva and Orlik in 1991 examined knee and ankle injuries and found that athletes who healed faster actually had access to more positive psychological strategies. Furthermore, psychological training enhances athletes' adherence to rehab programs, which is extremely important because you can have the best rehab program ever, but if an athlete doesn't follow it, it doesn't matter. Here's a surface level view of helping athletes psychologically. Bianco, Malo, and Orling in 1995 identified 3 phases of injury and recovery via their study of elite skiers. Now, first, there's the injury or illness phase in which you want to help athletes deal with their initial emotional reactions to injury. So the athlete's going to be discouraged. You kind of want to pull them aside and be like, hey, we'll help you. You can come back from this. Don't worry. Next is the rehab and recovering phase in which you want to push those athletes to continue their rehab and sustain their motivation so they don't shift away from their rehab program and ruin their progress. Lastly is the return to full activity phase in which you want to ensure that athlete is both physically and psychologically ready to return to normal functioning, because that's the sign of full recovery. Now, before ending, I would like to leave you all with some additional psychological strategies to help athletes. First, you want to build rapport with the injured person. You want to educate them about the injury and recovery process. You want to teach them how to cope with setbacks. You want to foster social support. You want to ensure that athlete is psychologically ready to play. You want to learn from the mistakes of previous injured athletes. You want to teach specific coping skills such as goal setting, positive self-talk, and relaxation training. Thank you.